right, we'll say good morning, good Chodesh, Zechus Baruch Hashem, to be able to begin this new month and this new week, learning this beautiful Masechta together. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's share. To thank our TALMUD Torah sponsors for Tav Shin Pei Hey, the Tilson Family for dedicating all the shiurim and drushos this year. This is zechus besuros tovos for Am Yisroel. Our week of learning sponsors, Paul and Kathy Pollack, the creation of the yahrzeit of Paul's father, Shmuel ben Zechariah, great-grandmother, Tziril bas Reb Dov, who are both niftar on Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Well, both of Rosh Chodesh Nissan, Meretz Hashem, the Neshama Shad and Aliyah, the family in Nechama, we should be zochem, Meretz Hashem, to besuros tovos for Am Yisroel, Chashbrach, Hashem, Meretz Hashem, bring all of our hostages home. Our holy soldiers should be successful. B'chol Maaseh Yedayim, we should be zochem, Meretz Hashem, that it should be a month of Nisim v'niflaos. And so it looks like we don't yet have a TALMUD Torah sponsor for the month of Nisan, so there are still opportunities in Meretz Hashem. If you would like to do that in honor of a special occasion, in honor of a loved one, or just stam to be Marbitz Torah and Klal Yisrael, you can see the office or email the office in Meretz Hashem for more details. That concludes the promotional part of this morning's share. And now, Meretz Hashem, we are beginning of today's daf is Kuf Gimel 103, and we are picking up in Meretz Hashem on Kuf Beis Amud Beis. We left off 15 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav Nachman, Achav Shakal Haya. Incredible Gemara. Rav Nachman says, Achav was Shakal. Now what Shakal means is like literally equal, which means that what Rav Nachman seems to be saying was that Achav was not a complete Rasha. He was kind of like a middle of the roader. Shnei Amar, Vayomer Hashem, Mi Yiftes Achav. We actually had this Gemara before. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Neshamas, who is going to entice Achav to sin? Vayal Vayipal Baramos Gilad said he should go out to war. Remember again, Achav goes out to battle thinking that he's going to be successful. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu was looking for a neshama who's going to go ahead and entice Achav to go ahead and sin. Who is the one who's going to do that? Vayomer Zeh B'Kol V'Zeh Omer B'Kol Maskil Rav Yosef. So the idea over here, so what is Rav Nachman highlighting? Rav Nachman is highlighting over here is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu almost needed someone to entice Achav to sin, to entice Achav to follow erroneous advice, which seemed to indicate that Achav was not all bad. He was shakal. The Gemara says, "Maskil Rav Yosef, man dekasa be'rak lo haya ka'achav asher ismachar la'asas rabbeinu Hashem asher histao sa'izel ishto." So again, the Gemara says, Rav Yosef, how can you say that Achav was that he was shakal, that he was equal? Look what the pasuk says, right? That ultimately, again, there was no one like Achav who went ahead and did such terrible things in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, aside from his wife Zevel, what did Zevel do? V'tanina b'chol yom haisa shokeles shiklei zav la'avodas kochavim. Okay, the only person worse than Achav was his wife, was Zevel. What did Zevel do? She measured out gold coins for Avodah Zarah every single day. Now, you'll say to yourself, so what's up about measuring out gold coins? So remember again, it's one thing to worship Avodah Zarah. It's another thing to give your money to Avodah Zarah, right? To worship, okay, maybe you're not so committed. Once you give your money, where you give your money, that represents your heightened level of commitment. So Achav may have worshipped, but Zevel gave her money. So the Gemara goes by Devaat Amrit Shakal Haya. How can you say Achav was Shakal? Ella Achav. So I'll say. So again, we have to explain the statement. So what does it mean? Obviously, Rav Nachman is coming along, and Rav Nachman is trying to say that halacha l'maisa there was some type of positivity to Achav's personality. What was the positivity? I'll say this is incredible. Ella Achav Vatron b'mamona Haya. Achav was generous. Is that incredible? Achav was generous. He was Vatron literally means he was easygoing with his money. He shared his money. And because he went ahead and he shared his wealth with Talmidei Chachamim, that atoned for half of his averos. I will say, is that not wild? Is that not wild? The power of tzedakah, the power of generosity, that even for a person like Achav, and by the way, it's interesting now, you see like the opposites of Achav and Zevel, right? Zevel concentrated her wealth ultimately again on the Avodah Zarah. But Achav went ahead and shared his wealth with Talmidei Chachamim. Again, he was wiping out Torah on one hand and supporting Talmidei Chachamim on the other hand. You'll say, we'll get the contradiction in just a moment. You'll say, but the idea over here is that halacha l'maisa, because of his generosity, his tzedakah wiped out half of his rishus, half of his iniquity. This goes with the motif of tzedakah tatzil mimaves. That literally, again, tzedakah has the ability to save us from death. The power of generosity to wipe out even the most heinous sin is an overwhelming yesod. I will say, what's the logic of it? Why does tzedakah have such power? Well, so we know this. Because what is the hardest thing in this world to part with? Money. money. We work hard for it, right? We always want more of it. And the ability to take something that you worked for, that you have the strong feeling that it's really yours, even though theologically I know that it's not mine, but the ability to take something that I worked hard for, that is mine, and to be able to give it to someone else is the highest, almost like the highest spiritual level that one could reach, because the only way you could do that is if you believe that it's not yours. Because if I believe that it's mine, I don't want to give it, and a lot of times I don't give it. If I believe that it's not mine, but it belongs to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and Baruch Hashem gave it to me as a custodian of His wealth, and I find the ability to overcome that most base impulse to keep everything for me, and to go ahead and be as generous as possible with others, it's the highest level of spiritual growth, highest level of spiritual accomplishment. Achav was an Oved Avodah Zarah, but he was ridiculously generous. Incredible. So going back, remember Kadosh Baruch Hu was looking for a spirit, so to speak. He's looking for an neshama to go out and to trick Achav into going into battle, which would be the battle in which he would lose his life. So who steps forward? So a certain spirit came forward. And the spirit said, I will entice Achav to go to war. Vayomer Hashem, Elav, Bameh, Vayomer Eitze v'Hayisi Ruach Sheker Befi Kol Neviyav, Vayomer Tifte v'Gam Tuchal Tseva Asekein. So the spirit comes before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says, I'll be the one who deceives Achav. I'll be a voice in the mouths of the false prophets, and they'll go ahead and they'll tell Achav to go out to battle. He'll go out to battle and he'll die in battles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, say, good, go out v'Asekein. My Ruach, so the Gemara says, whose Ruach? What spirit is this? We saw this Gemara before. Am Rabbi Yochanan, Rucho shel Navos HaYisraeli. Remember again, it was the spirit of Navos. What happened with Navos? Remember again, Navos had a vineyard that Achav very much wanted. Navos would not sell. Achav was very depressed. He spoke to his wife. His wife said, no problem, just bring him up on false charges of rebelling against the king, idolatry, all this other kind of stuff. They had Navos executed. What's the halacha when you execute someone for rebelling against the king? What's the halacha? The king gets his property. The king gets his property. And therefore, again, halacha l'maisa. So he got the vineyard, and Navos died. Navos was executed. The spirit of Navos wants its revenge against Achav. Might say, what does it mean? Kadosh Baruch Hu says to the spirit, go out. What does that mean? Amravina, Simim Mechitzasi, Shekem Dover, Shkarim, Lo Yikon Leneged Einai. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're going to lie, just know if you're going to lie, you can't come back. Once you go out to lie, you can't come back. Because again, there is no sheker, there is no lying, there is no untruths in the presence of the Ribono Shel Olam. Incredible. Amra Papa, Hanu Darmi Inshi, Depara Kine Marchiv Beisei. So we'll say this yields the famous adage, Depara Kine, he who wants to go ahead and repay vengeance destroys his own home. So I'll say this is actually a profound idea that sometimes the desire for revenge is so acute that at the end of the day, I might blaze a path of self-destruction, but I'm bent on that revenge. You know, there's another expression that's often used for this. The expression that's used is Tamos Nafshi Implishtim, which is the phrase that Shimshon said before he knocked down the pillars of the Colosseum, representing this idea that sometimes I want revenge so badly that even if I'm going to go down with the ship, I'm willing to go ahead and do it. So Shimshon was different. Shimshon was going to die regardless. Right? But Lamaise, he goes down with the Plishtim. So the same idea. Parakine, he who is bent on repaying revenge, Marchiv Beise, will destroy his own house. Vayas Achav es Hashera, Vayosef Achav lasos lahachis es Hashem Elokei Yisrael. So again, so Achav goes ahead, he makes an Asherah tree, which is an Avodah Zarah tree, and he continues to do the things that anger HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mikol Malchi Yisrael Shayu Lefanav. And he was the worst. Achav was the worst. Am Rabbi Yochanan, what did he do? Shekasev al daltos shomron, Achav kafar be'elokei Yisrael, lefichach ein lo chelik be'elokei Yisrael. So it was literally, Achav wrote on the doorway to the entranceway of his kingdom, right? In the doorway to the entranceway of the Shomron. He wrote, Achav is kofar. Achav kafar denies. Achav denies the God of Israel. Therefore, he has no portion in the God of Israel. And I'll say, by the way, it's so interesting, right? Why does he have to write this, right? Why the active repudiation? So you only have to go out of your way to actively repudiate, right? Things that you still feel touched. I will say, it's kind of like, like when you're having an argument with someone, and someone just won't let you have your own opinion, right? If you're secure enough in who you are, you don't have to go ahead and necessarily, you don't need other people to agree with you. You do your thing. I don't need you to agree with what I'm doing. When people need you to agree with them, right? When they can't stand the fact that you have a different opinion, that highlights a heightened level of insecurity. Secure people are absolutely okay with other people not agreeing with them. So it's almost as if Achav feels this need. He's theologically insecure because we see the greatness of Achav, right? We saw yesterday's Gemara. The Achav Mamish had like this element of him that was so pious, that was so righteous. But Lamaisa is almost like that insecurity. He needs to constantly write on the doors of the kingdom, I repudiate the God of Israel. Why? Just do your thing. We already see what you're doing. You're worshiping anyone and everyone but God. Right? You're planting Asherah trees. Everywhere there's a mound, there's Avodah Zarah. We know that you're an Oved Avodah Zarah. Why do you have to write it? Elamai, there is that spiritual insecurity. It's profound. The Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, good. Vayvakesh es Achazio, Vayel Kadeo, V'Mischai V'Shomron. So now we're switching gears just a second. Going to another king, Yehu. So again, Yehu, ultimately, again, was searching out Achazyahu, and he found him hiding in Shomron. I'm Rabbi Levi. She'akodir Askaros, V'Kosev Avodos Kochavim Tachtehen. So we'll say, what did Yehu do? Yehu, again, we're going through, unfortunately, a list of kings who lost their way. So Yehu, we saw from yesterday's Gemara that we do have to be careful about how we speak about them. Right? After Menashe, none of us want Menashe showing up in a dream, right, Taz? We just don't want that. I mean, I guess Halavai we should dream about Menashe. I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing. But again, we saw from yesterday's Gemara such a sensitivity that even about these people who the Mishnah said don't have a chilek in Olam Haba, we don't understand their struggles. We don't understand what they went through. So in any event, so Yehu cut out every single time in the Sefer Torah he found the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He cut out that name and replaced it with the name of Avodah Zarah. Menashe Shanashaka. Why was he called Menashe? Because he forgot God. Davar Acher Menashe Shin Shees Yisrael V'Im Shashayim. Or it means that he caused Klal Yisrael to forget HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Minalan Delo Asila Amodasi. How do we know that Menashe didn't go to Olam Haba? The Chsiv is very interesting. Menashe becomes king when he is 12 years old. When he's 12 years old. Remember again, I'll say, his father was Chizkiyahu, right? So Chizkiyahu dies. Menashe becomes king at 12 years old. He becomes the longest serving monarch. He becomes king at 12, reigns for 55 years. Vayas hara b'nei Hashem kasha asa Achav melech Yisrael. And he did what was bad in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu like Achav. So it's interesting. The Navi compares him to Achav. The Gemara says, what's the nature of the comparison? Ma Achav ein lo chelik v'olam haba. Just like Achav has no portion in the world to come, Af Menashe ein lo chelik v'olam haba. So to Menashe has no portion in the world to come. Both say, by the way, it's also interesting to note. You have to wonder about this. Obviously, 12 years old in times of the Navi is not like 12 years old today. But you have to wonder to yourself what that level of responsibility does to a child. Right? Imagine again becoming king and being vested with all that responsibility at the age of 12, right? And trying to figure all of that out. Just seems incredibly, incredibly complicated. All right, in any event, so therefore again, Menashe has no chelik in Olam Haba. So the Gemara goes weiter. Yehuda Menashe yesh lo chelik Olam Haba shene'emar vayspal Menashe al Hashem vayar talav. Yehuda disagrees. Yehuda says no, chas v'shalom. Menashe does have a portion in the world to come. He does have a chelik in Olam Haba because the pasuk says that Menashe davened to Hashem and the Ribono Shel Olam went ahead and listened to him. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. So we'll say, so a fundamental machlokes about Menashe. Does Menashe have a chelik in Olam Haba? Doesn't he have a chelik in Olam Haba? Which one? So the Gemara says, I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Ushnei Mikra Echad Darshu. Both of them darshu in the same pasuk. Shneimar, Unisatim lezavo lecho mamlecho saaretz biglam Menashe ben Yechezkiyahu. Mar savar biglam Menashe shasa tshuva, ve'inhu lo avud, umar savar, tap of kuf gimel, umar savar biglam Menashe, Dilo avad tshuva. So ultimately, again, the Torah speaks about the Rebbe Shalom handing over Klal Yisrael to the nation, to the foreign nations. Biglam Menashe b'Chizkiyahu. So why was Klal Yisrael handed over? One opinion says because Menashe didn't do tshuva. Other opinion says no, Menashe did do tshuva. What was the problem? Klal Yisrael didn't do tshuva. So we'll say fundamental machlokes about whether or not Menashe ever actually became a Baal tshuva. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. We'll say Tab of Kuf Gimel 103a. This is a tremendous Gemara. Kala Omer Menashe eno chelik l'olam haba merapa yedein shal bali tshuva. Whoever says that Menashe doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba, ultimately again weakens the hands of Bali Tshuva. Weakens the hands of Bali Tshuva. Shabbos says, so amazingly enough, so this is very profound, because if you say that Menashe doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba, we know one thing, Menashe did do Tshuva. He did do Tshuva. So if you say that he doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba, that means that Tshuva doesn't work for everything. And the moment you put that out, that Tshuva doesn't work for everything, you disincentivize people becoming Bali Tshuva. Because people will say, you see, you could be too far gone for Tshuva to affect any change in your life. The Tanik Kamid Rabbi Yochanan, Menashe asa Tshuva, l'shloshim v'shalosh shanim. Menashe, remember, Menashe reigned for 55 years. For the first 22 of those years, he was a terrible Rasha. But then for the last 33 years, he did Tshuva. How do we know the numbers? Tichsiv, ben shteim esrei shana Menashe malcho. Menashe became king at the age of 12. V'chamishim shana malach b'Yerushalayim. He reigned for 55 years in Yerushalayim. Vayas hara kasher asa Achav melech Yisrael. And again, the Navi equates him to Achav. Kama malach Achav. How long did Achav reign for? Esrin v'tartin shnin, 22 years. Menashe kama malach, chamishim v'chamish shana. Daminahu esrin v'tartin pashlut tlasin utlas. So interestingly enough, the Gemara seems to say as follows. That what's happening over here is that halacha l'maisa, the Navi compares Menashe to Achav. What's the nature of the comparison? Achav reigned for 22 years. So the Gemara's understanding over here is that Menashe reigned like Achav for 22 years. Meaning for 22 years he was a Rasha. For the remainder of his reign, which was then 33 years, he became a Baal Tshuva. Incredible. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan said, Mishum Rashbi, Mai Dichsiv, Vayishma Ela Vayechtar Lo. So remember again, we know what turned Menashe, right? What was it that made Menashe into being a Baal Tshuva? He was captured, right? He was captured by Aram, and again, probably tortured as well, and he calls out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Shalom says, Vayishma Ela, Hashem heard Menashe's supplications, Vayechtar Lo. So the Gemara says, what is Vayechtar? Vaye'etar lo mi boy. It should have said Vaye'etar, which means Menashe davened, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned to him. What does it mean Vayechtar? Well, this is beautiful. Melamed, Sha'asalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu can mean Machteres Barakia. The Rebbe Shalom made for Menashe like a tunnel, like a Machteres. Machteres means, to furtively, like secretly. He made him a secret tunnel for Tshuva and Rakia in the Shemaim. Why? K'dei lekablo b'Tshuva. In order to go ahead and receive Menashe in proper Tshuva. Why? Mipnei Midas Hadin. Because ultimately, again, because remember, Midas Hadin, the divine attribute of justice, said, Menashe, you cannot become a Baal Tshuva. You're too far gone. Kadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol made like a secret pathway for Menashe's Tshuva that even the strict attribute of justice could not interfere. I will say, what do you see from here? You know what the great part about being God is? One of the great parts about being God is you make the rules. So what happens? Midas Hadin says, a guy like Menashe can't do tshuva. So what does the Ribono Shel Olam do? He makes a different pathway. He makes a different tunnel. He goes ahead and ultimately, again, allows Menashe to somehow come back. The Ribono Shel Olam wants more than anything. He wants our tshuva. He wants us to change. He wants us to be able to go ahead and come back to Him. And even if the normative construct of tshuva says that such a person can't return, the Ribono Shel Olam will make a different pathway. When it comes to tshuva, the Ribono Shel Olam never says no. And even if HaKadosh Baruch Hu says no, you keep trying until He says. And even if He says no, you keep doing tshuva anyway. Nothing stands in the way of profound and meaningful tshuva. Rabbi Yochanan Rashbi, Mai Dichsiv, Bereshis Mamlachos Yoyakim ben Yoshio, Uksiv Bereshis Mamlachas Tzidkiya Vechi Ad Ha'idna Lahavu Malchei. Shabbos say it sounds like over here Bereshis Mamlachos Yoyakim. That Yoyakim was Yoyakim the first king, was Tzidkiya the first king. There are monarchs before them. Ella. Rather, I will say what it means is like this. There are some people who were so evil that the Rebbe Shalom literally wanted to go ahead and turn the world back, like start all over again, because things were so broken. So in the days of Yehoyakim, things were so broken that HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally wanted to return the world to Tohu Vavohu. Nistakla b'darav v'niskara daito. But again, although Yehoyakim wasn't good, he saw the generation was good. Similarly, again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to go ahead and start the world all over again. during the generation of Tzidkiah. Nistacha b'Tzidkiah v'niskara daito. B'Akadosh Baruch Hu saw the righteousness of Tzidkiah and spared the generation because of Tzidkiah. But say, what do you see from here? That the Rebbe Shalom is just looking for someone who's righteous. Either a leader who's righteous, even if the generation is not, or a generation who's righteous, even if the leader is not. The Ribono Shel Olam wants our success more than anything. And as long as he could find someone who is worthy of salvation, someone who is worthy of his bracha, then ultimately, again, he'll spare the collective. It's incredible. So the Gemara says, B'Tzidkiah namiksiv, vayas Rabbeinu Hashem. But one second, but Tzidkiah also, it doesn't sound like he was very righteous. It says he also did that which was evil in the eyes of Hashem. Shai biyad limchos v'lo micha. What it means is like this. Tzidkiah had the ability to object. We'll say Tzidkiah himself was righteous. So what was his mistake? His mistake was he had the ability to object to the negative behavior of his generation, but he failed to do so. This, we see this theme over and over in Chazal, that when you see something bad happening and you don't do anything, you are held liable as if you committed the wrong yourself. Overwhelming idea. Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rashbi, Mai dichsiv ish chacham nishpat es ish avel berega es v'sachak veinachas. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Shalom says as follows: Ka'asti al Achaz. I got angry at Achaz, right? King Achaz, one of the evil kings. Then asat b'yad malchei Damasek, and therefore I handed him over in the hands of the king of Damasek. And what did he do when he was handed over in the hands of the king of Damasek? Zibeach v'kitar lelheim. He ends up, Achaz, instead of realizing that he's in trouble with God and maybe he should turn himself around, instead starts praying to their gods, the gods of Damasek. Shneimar vayizbach lelokei darmesek hamakim bo vayomer ki Elohei malchei aram heim ma'azrim osam lahem ezbach vayazruni veheim lo hayu lo lakshil l'chol Yisrael shachakti im amatzya. So literally, again, I smiled upon Amatzia, and even though Amatzia didn't necessarily do the right thing, but I smiled upon Amatzia, and ultimately, again, I gave over the hands of kings of Edom in his hand. Hevi Eloheihem v'shtachav Elohem. How did Amatzia repay me for this victory? He took the gods of Edom and he began worshiping them. Shneimar v'hiach harechein ba Amatzia me'akos es Edomim v'yavo es v'yave es Elohei b'nei Seir v'yamedeim Elohim v'lifnei mishtachav Elohem yiktar. So again, Amatzia was handed victory. And what did Amatzia do with his victory? He went and he started worshiping alien gods. Amra Papa, Hanu Darmi Inshi. This is what people say, the famous adage that they say, Bachi le lemar de lo yada, chaychi lemar de lo yada, vai le lemar de lo yada, bein tav lebish. So sometimes again, you could cry for someone and he doesn't understand. You could smile upon someone and he doesn't understand. Woe to the person who doesn't understand between good and bad. So reference to these kings who are given tremendous opportunities to turn themselves around, but yet fail to understand the opportunity that which was presented, and therefore again continue to go on the path of evil. Overwhelming. Vayavo kol sarei melech Babel, vayavo b'shar hatavach. So we'll say, so this is about Tzidkiah. So right, all the king, right, the ministers of the king of Babel, the king of Babel himself came and he sat at the Shar Tavach. I'm going to be Makom shemechatchin balach. So we'll say third wide line. The king of Babel situated himself at the gates of the city. The gates ultimately where they were normally adjudicate halacha. Rapapana darmi inshi ba'asra demare tala le zaine taman kulba raya kul seitala. In the place where ultimately the master of his house used to hang his weapons, now the shepherd comes along and hangs his jug. The idea over here is the gate of the city was the place where the Sanhedrin would rule, the high court would rule. So that very place where it used to be was used for halakha. Now the shepherd, that's a reference to the king of Babel. The shepherd hangs his stuff. This is a beautiful pasuk, or it's a heartbreaking pasuk, but an interesting pasuk. So again, this Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei, I passed by the house of the field of a lazy man, and I passed by the vineyard of a man who lacks heart. Both the lazy man and the man who lacks heart are both inattentive, right, to their field and to their vineyard. Now what happened? V'nei ala kula kimshonim, kasu panav charulim, v'geder avanim nersa. And what happens? The field is overgrown with thorns and thistles. And what happens? The stone walls are in a state of disrepair. So the Gemara says the metaphor. Asade ish atzal avarti ze'achos. Who is the man, right? Who is the lazy man? Who is the lazy man with the overgrown field? That's King Achaz. Va'kerem Adam Chasar Leiv. Who is the vineyard? The person who lacks heart, who owns the vineyard. Zemenasha. And I will say the metaphor is quite profound. V'hine alu kulo kimshonim. And again, it's overgrown with thorns. Ze amon. Kasu panav charulim. Ze yehoyakim. V'geder avan of nersa. And the wall of stone has now fallen to a state of disrepair. Ze tzitkiyo shenechrav beis hamikdash biyamav. Where the beis hamikdash was destroyed in his days. So I just want to point out how profound this is. The Navi, Rabbi Shmuel Silber, refers to these kings as people who are inattentive, chasr leiv, or lazy. So Rabbi saying the way that sinful behavior begins is not with an active desire to do the wrong thing. Really, the way it begins is just apathy. Apathy is the gateway midah to the most horrible and horrific sin. The moment you just begin to not care, the moment you just begin to not push yourself, the moment apathy sets in, anything happens after apathy. This is what I was saying. We spoke about this not so long ago. I don't remember what year. But again, this is what Rabbi Nachman brings down. Rabbi Nachman says that the greatest tool of the Yetzer Hara is not chet. The greatest tool of the Yetzer Hara is yeush, where there is despair. Right? Where a person just gives up, where a person stops caring, where a person is apathetic. That's when all types of terrible behaviors begin to set in. So it's interesting. How does Shlomo describe Menashe? How does he describe Achaz? As just lazy, chasr leiv, apathetic people. It all starts with apathy. He'll say that's why the most important yesod in life is to be passionate each and every day. To make sure, this is why, we always speak about this. You have to push yourself every day. You have to be moving forward every day, because if I'm not moving, if I'm staying in place, I will say, you know what the other word for staying in place is? The synonym for staying in place is stagnation or apathy. Apathy. I will say, apathetic people aren't going out and regressing. Apathetic people aren't going out and doing things wrong. Apathetic people they're just staying where they are, right? An apathetic person finds a nice place to hover, right? This is comfortable. This is nice. This is good. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're right. Not doing anything wrong, except apathy is the gateway midah to every other terrible behavior. Terrible behavior never starts with terrible behavior. Terrible behavior starts with apathy. Apathy, and then from apathy, it's downward spiral. Overwhelming. There are four people, or four groups, literally again, who do not receive the Shekhinah. Who are they? Kat leitzin, a letz, I don't know what's the good word for a letz, scoffer. But it's more than just a scoffer. It's right. A letz is someone who takes nothing seriously. Everything is a joke. Everything goes by. We'll say, you ever meet a person like this? Right. For example, in the beginning, when they're always with their wisecracks, you're like, oh, that's cute. And then, at a certain point, it's like, enough already. Like, don't you take anything seriously enough in life to not have, a one-line comeback? Just stop. And it goes from entertaining to annoying pretty quickly. And again, if you're that kind of person, nothing serious, right? Nothing serious. And again, you always, so we'll say, there are moments in life, right, where I'm about to be serious about something. And then what happens, we'll say, all you need, you ever have a situation like this where maybe you're talking with a chevra, you're living with a chevra, and there's a momentum that's going. And then someone that right, comes along and he says that line, and what does it do? It sucks all the spiritual air out of the room, right? And again, it just deflates everything. So a person like that, okay, just understand you have no relationship with that Kadosh Baruch Hu. Well, that's, again, means well, but missed the mark. Next, kat shakranim. Again, I will say shakranim. Shakranim ultimately, again, is a liar. Person who's a liar can't have a relationship with Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because the prerequisite for a relationship with God is honesty. The Rosh Hashanah does not need perfection. He does not even need greatness. All he needs is honesty. Because if I'm honest with myself, I know what I am and I know what I'm not. And then if I know especially what I'm not, I could work on that. If I am dishonest, if I am a liar, Liars cannot create relationships because, again, if you're lying, then by definition there is nothing to move forward on. Kat chanifim. Chanifim will say, again, it's chanifa, flattery, right? But it's like, but it's false flattery. Thank you. It's false flattery, right? Chanifa is flattery for the sake of getting something out of someone, right? I don't really believe it, right? I don't really believe it, but rather, again, I'm using it ultimately, and I will say, like when people do this, I guess this is like lobbying, right? At the end of the day, it's lemaisa, like it's so disingenuous, and everyone knows it's disingenuous, right? But what's the interesting part? The interesting part is when someone strokes my ego, like, oh, that's nice, that's nice, even though I know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but it's still nice. Everybody likes a little bit of flattery. So as I said, at the end of the day, again, this chanifim, kat misaper lashon hara, and those who again speak slander. So I'll say it's interesting, by the way. If you notice, these are four groups who cannot have imekabos v'neshchina means they can't have a relationship with Hashem. Now, it's interesting, by the way. What's missing over here? If you were to make a list of people who can't have a relationship with God, who would you put in there? Avodah Zarah, right? Ding, 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 ding. Right, number one, right? Right, number one, right? Right. Maybe a close number two would be Arias, right? You getting this? Good, right? Arias, good, right? Number three, Shlichus Damim, right? Good. We got the big three. If you notice, they're not there. I will say, do you know why? Averos don't stand in the way of a relationship with God. Averos don't stand, because we all commit Averos. Right? We probably, a number of us have done a couple of doozies, and it's even before 9 o'clock. Right? So as well, we all commit Averos every single day. Averos don't stand in the way of a relationship with God. Honesty stands in the way of a relationship with God. And if you look at the common denominator amongst all of these things, it's all about honesty. He can't be honest about anything. He just can't take anything seriously. So what he does is he uses let's humor to just take the MS out of every circumstance. A shakran, obviously, again, dishonest. Chanifa, dishonest. Even lashon hara. I will say again, lashon hara always takes place where? Right? I shouldn't say always. Often takes place behind closed doors. And usually, the greatest purveyors of lashon hara will present themselves like your friends, right? They'll present like someone who's got your back, like someone who's your buddy. But at the end of the day, when you're not looking behind your back, that's when they will verbally stab you over and over and over. So the common denominator, dishonesty. Chodesh Baruch Hu says, you're not honest, there's no foundation for a relationship. You could sin from today until tomorrow. Chodesh Baruch Hu says, I got you. Let's work it through. Because you're a sinner. Great. Shkoyach, join the club. We're all sinners. Just some of us are recreational. Some of us are habitual. Some of us are just on the weekends. Others are like on alternate Tuesdays, right? But we had others 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? And Chodesh Baruch Hu says, it's okay. Whatever you're doing, I promise, I got you. We can work it through. But if you're dishonest, then there is no way to have a relationship. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, now the Gemara proves each of these. Kat leisim dichsiv, mashach yadu asal tzitzim, kat shak, the Gemara just quotes upon psuki for each of these. Kat shak, ranim dichsiv, dover shkarim lo yikon, leneged einai, kas chanifim dichsiv, ki lo lefanav chanaf yavo, kat b'jaber lashon hara dichsiv, ki lo el chofetz rasha ata lo yigur chara, tzadik ata, v'lo yigur chara. V'amrav chista, amrav yirmiyah barabba. My dichsiv, what's the meaning of the pasuk? Lus, what says beautiful. Lo su'una elecha ra, v'nega lo yikrav bi'ah Shavuot say, what is the meaning of the pasuk over here, where David HaMelech says, in Tehillim, what does it mean? Lo su'una elecha ra v'nega like Rabbi ol halecha. So the Gemara says, Lo su'una elecha ra, that literally again, that ra will not be set upon you. Shelo yishlot bahen yetzer hara. Ultimately, again, it's a bracha. You shouldn't, the yetzer hara, shelo yishlot bahen yetzer hara. Both say it's very important. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have a yetzer hara. There's a time you don't have a yetzer hara. When don't I have a yetzer hara? When you're dead. Right? That's the right. there's an upside to everything, right? When you're dead, there is no Yetzer Hara, shkoyach, right? So there is no Yetzer Hara when you're dead, right? So it doesn't mean that I don't have Yetzer Hara. Rather, if you notice, Lashon Hara is shelo yishlot ban Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara shouldn't rule over me. I will say I'm always going to have a Yetzer Hara. The shaila is who's in charge, me or the Yetzer Hara? Lo su'una elecha ra'ah. The ra'ah, the Yetzer Hara, should not rule over me. Next, lo yikra bi'ahalecha. I'm sorry, v'nega lo yikra ba'alecha. And literally again, an affliction should not come close to your tent. Shel timsa ishtecha safek nida b'shah shetava min haderech. So I'll say this is fascinating, that when a man comes home from a long trip, he shouldn't find his wife in a state of safek nida. And we'll say, now what does this mean? What does this mean? So a man comes home from a long trip, Rashi says, he wants to be with his wife. So again, if a man knows that his wife is in nida, okay, so she's in nida, what can you do? Safek is where things become a little bit complicated, because what could happen? A man could chas shalom just to justify to himself that perhaps she's really permitted and end up sinning with her. So I'll say it's actually interesting that perhaps this is the way the Gemara is interpreting the pasuk. It could also be metaphorically understood as follows. If you read it as a progression, the first part is lo su'una elecha ra'ah. Ultimately, again, do not let the Yetzer Hara go ahead and rule over you. How do you do that? V'nega lo yikrav bi'ahalecha. The Gemara is darshaning it as you don't come home and find your wife a safek nida. The way to rule over your Yetzer Hara is to eliminate safek within your life. A lot of times, the reason we get ourselves into trouble is because we choose to live in worlds of gray. We choose to live in worlds of safek. And we allow safek to be perpetuated. I will say, all of us have areas of our life where if somebody were to ask us, are you living correctly in this area? I'd be like, kind of, because I know that it's not, I know that this area of my life, and we all have different areas, all of us have it. Those areas, some areas where I know that I'm doing the Ratzon Hashem, and other areas where I know that literally again, in my tent is safek nida. In my tent is a safek in life. And a lot of times we know there's a safek, and we just perpetuate kind of like the iffy parts of our existence. If you have too much safek in life, that's where the Yetzer Hara comes in. So much of life is identifying the areas of my life that are safek, that are not really what they should be, and make them what they should be. If I could eliminate the safek in my life to the best of my ability, I don't know if I could ever eliminate all of it, but if I could eliminate the safek to the best of my ability, then ultimately, again, I could ensure that the Yetzer Hara will not rule over me. Incredible. So Gemara goes weiter. What does it mean that negativity, Ra, should not rule over you? You shouldn't have bad dreams. Shouldn't have bad dreams. V'hirhurim ra'im, or bad thoughts. V'negala yikra bi'ahalecha, shelo yehelecha ben o talmid shemachtiach tavshilo berabim. What does it mean that ultimately, again, that affliction should not come in your tent, that you shouldn't have a student or a son, literally translated, who spoils his food in public, which means that my children and my students should not do things that are publicly disgraceful. All right, privately, all kinds of stuff is going to happen, right? But at least publicly, again, things shouldn't occur. Ad kan bercho avis. This is very beautiful. The Gemara's darshaning is that this pasuk in Tehillim ultimately, again, is a reference to brachos from a father, brachos from a mother, and brachos from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the first parable says, it's so beautiful, is the brachos of a father. What's the bracha that a father gives his son? Number one, don't let the Yetzer Hara rule over you. Number two, right? Again, going with what we said, how do you ensure the Yetzer Hara doesn't rule over you? Don't let there be safek in your life. If there are zechus in the way that you're living, deal with those zechus. Deal with the difficult situations. Don't live with uncertainty. There's gray, figure it out, and figure out a proper mahal. This is what a father says to his son. Furthermore, a father says to his son, don't be scared by bad dreams in life. Don't be scared by bad dreams. We'll say, what does it mean, don't be scared by bad dreams? What does that mean? We'll say, what are dreams? What are dreams? Right? There's a whole machlokes brachas about what dreams are. Are they meaningful, not meaningful? And I will say, what does it mean not to get scared by bad dreams or hirurim ra'im? So many times in life, we are scared off from doing the things we really want to do because we're scared of all the possibilities that could go wrong. This could happen, that could happen. And again, I will say, in any given moment in life, Anything and everything could go wrong in so many different ways. What does the father say to his son? Father says to his son, don't be scared off by bad dreams in life. Don't be scared to dream big and go big. Just because you could become paralyzed by all the things that could go wrong. Yes, you're right, they all could go wrong. And they may not go wrong. But the only way you know you'll be successful is in Yahrzeit Hashem if you give it a try. This is what a father says to his son. And what else does a father say to his son? Son, you're going to have tremendous moments of weakness. In those moments of weakness, make sure that at least you fail privately and not publicly. I'll say it's a big thing. We all fail. That's the Gemara says. You know, remember the Gemara says brachas? Person has a yetzer hara. We're never going to finish Sanhedrin. A person has a yetzer hara. Person has a yetzer hara. Right? Person has a yetzer hara. And what happens, let's say I can't go ahead and combat the yetzer hara. So what does the Gemara say? What does the Gemara say? Yilbash Kohen, put on black clothing, go somewhere where no one knows you, and do what you need to do. There's an understanding that sometimes in life I'm going to lose the battle against the yetzer hara. If you're going to lose the battle, minimize the fallout. Minimize the collateral damage. Minimize the chal Hashem. You're going to sin? Don't do it publicly. You're going to sin? Go somewhere else. That's what a father, after all of these lofty ideas and ideals, a father says to his son, you're going to fail because it's going to happen. It happens to all of us. Just make sure at the end of the day you minimize the damage. Incredible. That's what a father says. Mikan ve'elach birchaso imo. After that is the bracha that a mother gives to her child. What does a mother say to her child? Mr. Gemara says, what does a mother say? Ki malacha v'yitzavah l'shmaracha b'chol d'rachecha. Al kapayim yisa'uncha. So what does a mother say to her child? The malachim should watch over you in all of your ways. They should hold you in the palms of their hands. Al shachal v'fes and tidroch. And ultimately, again, you should trample on the lions and on the snakes. Shabbos said, what's the bracha of a mother? That's incredible. What's the bracha of a mother? Be safe. Be safe, right? A father has all of these different ideas, right? Father says, and what does a mother say? Shefala, I love you. I just want you to be safe. The malachim should watch over you. You should trample, right? A father ultimately, again, wants his son to be successful. Right, so a father gives all of the different things that he needs. Overcome the yetzer hara, rein it in, right? Don't live in suffix. Don't let bad dreams scare you off from accomplishing big things. All these things. And the mother says, Shefala, I just want you to be okay. I want you to be okay. The malachim should watch over you. You should trample on snakes and scorpions. You do accomplish, you don't accomplish. The truth is, from the mother, doesn't matter that much. I just want you to be safe. I want you to be okay. And I want you to be happy. Incredible. Those are the brachas of a mother. Mikan ve'elach birchos shamayim. After that, ultimately, again, the Chodesh Baruch Hu steps. Chodesh Baruch Hu gives brachas. What are the brachas of the Ribbon Shalom? We'll say Amud Beis. Ki vi chashak v'afateu asagbeu ki yada shemi. So we'll say, what does Chodesh Baruch Hu say? If you put your faith in me, I will save you. I will save you. Asagvehu, I will lift you up. Ki yada shemi, if you know my name. Yikreini, if you call out to me, va'aneu, I will answer you. Imo anochi betzara, I am with you in every difficult place. So what this is incredible. What does the Chodesh Baruch Hu say? See, the mother says, I just want you to be safe. What does Chodesh Baruch Hu say? I got you. I got you. As long as you cast your lot with me, right? As long as you put your hand in mine, Chodesh Baruch Hu says, I've got you covered. I will say, is this not absolutely beautiful? The father giving all of the advice the son needs in order to be successful. The mother, just the anticipatory wish, I don't really even care what you accomplish or don't accomplish in life. I just want you to be okay. I just want you to be safe. I want you to be happy. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling us, put your hand in mine, wrap your arms around me, and I promise you, whatever happens in life, I got you. I got you. Incredible. Incredible. Now let's say, by the way, when you drill down to it, we sometimes forget that, like, the Ribbon Shalom is not looking. He's not looking for us. He's not like, if you notice, by the way, he's not saying, learn my Torah, do my mitzvahs, finish us. He's not saying that. He's just saying, put your hand in my hand. Just throw your arms around me, and I got you. We forget that sometimes all HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us is love. All he wants from us is that sense of commitment. All he wants from us is to know that we are together with him. And he says, we'll work the rest of it out. You're sinning, you're doing bad stuff, you're down the wrong path in life. Okay, we'll work it through. We'll work it all through. but just tell me that you're with me. And if we could just cast our lot and cast our destiny and put our hands in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and throw our arms around him, that's all we have to do. That's all we have to do. And he says, I've got you. Overwhelming. Amar Shimon Lakish, May Dichsiv, Vayiman Mereshayim Oram, Uzra Ram Tishaber, Mipnei Ma'ayin Shal Hashem Tuliyas. So it's interesting that in the word Rishayim, so there was a Masorah that whenever you wrote the word Rasha, the ayin was higher than the reish and the shin. Right? So be reish, higher shin, and ayin. Why was it? Well, there was a Masorah that was written that way. Why is it written that way? Kevan shena'asa adam rash milamata na'asa rash milamala. So it was very interesting because remember, if you take the ayin out of Rasha, what do you have? Rush. What does rush mean? Rush means poor. So the idea was, listen to this, that if a person is poor below, he's poor above. What does this mean? So the Gemara says like this: if a person is disliked by other people, that is generally indicative that they are disliked by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very strong statement. And I was supposed to say, by the way, there's actually like a basic logic to it. If you can't get along with people, right, who you could see, who you could interact with, who you could talk with, who you need, then Allah has kama v'kama, you most probably won't be able to get along with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's just the way that it works. So if a person is disliked by people, then ultimately, again, they are disliked by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara says, that's the case, lo nichtav klal. So just take the ayin out altogether. Rabbi Yochanan ben Elazar, chad amar mipnei kvodo shel David, v'chad amar mipnei kvodo shel Nehemiah ben Chachalia. So I will say, this is very interesting. The Gemara says, because there are exceptions to this rule. There are people who are despised by other people, but yet they are still beloved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I will say, who's a good example of that? Get ready for this. Who's an example of that? David HaMelech. David HaMelech was despised by people, but yet he was beloved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nehemiah, who helped to rebuild the second Beis Hamikdash, was despised. Now, not by Jews, he was despised by some of the Gentile rulers, ultimately again for rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara says, generally, this metric is correct. If you can't get along with people, then by definition, you usually don't have a good relationship with Hashem. But there are exceptions to this rule, people who don't get along with people, but are still beloved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just want to point out, by the way, it's not just David. You know, by the way, if during the 40 years in the desert, you were to take a popularity poll, right, about Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't know that he'd even be in double digits. Let me be in double digits. The yesod is great people often really only become appreciated when they're dead. Right? So again, we say David HaMelech, I say the name David, feel like I should stand up. David Malcolm Mashiach, he was treated like garbage. Literally like garbage during his lifetime. By masses of people. By his own family. Treated with garbage. Once he dies, okay, then everybody loves him. Moshe Rabbeinu, treated like garbage. Mamish treated like garbage. Disparaged. Incredible. They accused Moshe Rabbeinu of stealing. They accused him of adultery. They accused him of all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just human nature. For whatever the reason is, we often don't appreciate the great people we have in our midst when they're alive. Once they die, then we recognize ultimately again what we truly had and now what we lost. So again, the Gemara is pointing out is generally the rule is, if you're despised by people, you're generally despised by God. Except there are two exceptions. Now I want to point out, there's only two exceptions, right? It's just David and Nehemiah. The rule holds true for everyone else. Okay, Tanah Banan. Menashe Yeshana Chamisha V'Chamisha Panim B'Torah, Torah's Kanim, Keneged Shnei Machuso. Let's get ready for this. King Menashe had 55 different interpretations of Chumash Vayikra. Well, I just want to point out how ridiculously amazing this is. Chumash Vayikra. We're just starting Chumash Vayikra this week. This week, Mamish, it's Sunday of Chumash Vayikra. Right? No? Is this decaf today? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. On a 7.5-year cycle, the first Sunday of Chumash Vayikra, and now, by the way, Menashe darshaned, ultimately, again, 55 different interpretations of Chumash Vayikra. Why 55? Corresponding to the years of his monarchy. So I don't know if it means that like every year he espoused a new drasha, a new interpretation of Chumash Vayikra. Now, what is this saying? Menashe, obviously, again, despite all of the Avodah Zarah, had a tremendous connection to Torah, and ultimately, again, had a tremendous insights into Torah. Again, I will say, now, and by the way, it's not just the 33 years that he did Shuvah. It's 55 years of drashas on Chumash Vayikra. That was Menashe. Achov, Shmone v'chamisha. Achav advanced 85 different interpretations of Chumash Vayikra. Yeravam, Meu Shlosha, 103 interpretations of Chumash Vayikra. Both say, by the way, why are they all fixated on Chumash Vayikra? Why is it all fixated on Chumash Vayikra? Because what's the opening buzz? Adam ki yakriv mikem karban la Hashem. Vayikra is karbanos. Shorosh of karbanos is karov, close. Right? Deep down, what does every single Yid want? Deep down, what we all want is kirvas Hashem, is closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's all I want. Vani kirvas Elokim litov. All I want is to be close. Just sometimes I become so ridiculously complicated, and for whatever the reason, I get derailed from that primary life mission. But everyone wants Vayikra. Everyone wants Karbanos. Everyone wants Kirva. Even Menashe, even Achav, even Menashe, even Achav. You know, by the way, Achav, Yeravam, Menashe, the three kings listed in our Mishnah, who don't have a chilik in Olam Haba. The three kings listed in our Mishnah espoused volumes on Chumash Vayikra. Even the greatest sinner in Klal Yisrael just wants connection with the Ribono Shel Olam. Tanya, all right, boss, I know I'll have to stop over here for today. I will say, tomorrow's a short daf. Shorter in comparison. We are fine. I will say, tremendous start to the week. Shkoyach. I'm on a good Chodesh. I will say, for those who are here for Mechiras Chumash, Mechiras Chumash we're going to be doing right in the classroom, right opposite here. Classroom 6, right across. Chevron Zoom, Shkoyach, everyone. Also, schedule-wise, the regular 9 o'clock minyan in the shul, this Orus minyan here in the base medrash. Can I take the first sales seat? Definitely take the first sales seat. Yeah, just walk with me into that room over there. Just right over here. But I'll take you first, Mayor. Yeah, I realized I was supposed to stop it. I don't know why I put it at 10 to 9. That was never going to happen.
Someone had me to leave at 5 for a Shabbat. I thought it was full Thursday night when I was in it. I found that when I went yesterday to get some Rosh shoes, it was empty. I'll be positive it was half full. So I don't know if the Roman took the camera.